thank you for joining us again for one of our video presentations. Today I'm going to be talking about various different data sources that you can use to support business decisions at different stages in the product or customer lifecycle. I've touched on this particular chart once before in our first video, where I focused on all of the components of a good data-driven strategy. Today, I'm going to focus on 3 different areas. But if you'd like to hear the input around innovation and how to manage data at the customer experience management stage, then please do look at our first video. So this is the business maturity cycle. I've said already that we focused on 2 areas. We focused on innovation and customer experience. But today I'm going to talk you through the remaining 3 parts of this cycle. So firstly, let's focus on market understanding. So at this point, the key business questions that you're asking yourself are things like, how much of an opportunity is there in the market for me? How big, where, and which audience should I be focused on? And what's the willingness to pay for what I might offer? In terms of your customer data sources that you need to focus on at this point, this is where market surveys come into their own. Market sizing, market opportunity analysis, thinking about government statistics, published reports, and quite often analysts can be a really core source of data at this point. Now, before you move into the market, there's going to be little internal data that's focused for you, and it really becomes much more important when you get to the later stages of the life cycle. So let's move on and talk about the next stage, which is when you actually get to the point of product launch. So key business questions that you're asking here is, what do you think of this idea? Is this something unique and compelling in the market? Are there any fundamental issues with the function, form, features and benefits that we've developed? And does it really address the specific needs that you might have unearthed at the innovation stage? The key customer data sources here is where social media really comes into its own, particularly pre-launch, as no other data set really gives you the opportunity to understand customers' hopes and fears. So as soon as your product's launched, then you have the opportunity to talk to them. Online innovation and trial communities can be really useful at that point. Getting your product into people's hands. Market research studies and ethnographic observations. That is where you collect data by being in customers' homes or in their offices and learning about how the product will function there. Now, you do have some internal metrics that can kind of be used at this point. You are going to want to be thinking about return on investment from campaigns. You can look at pre-orders. Is there excitement and buzz as you anticipated? And if you've been running beta products or trials, you may have initial telemetry data that you could think about, or you may have just straight customer feedback from the trialists. The final stage that we're going to look at in the cycle today is the community engagement. At that point, the key business questions are, how can I continue to be relevant or more relevant to customers? What messages are the community rallying around? And then how can we support the self-forming communities that are just emerging around our product? So the kind of customer data sources to use at that point is, what's happening in social channels? How are your likes? How are your followers, friends, pins on Pinterest, etc.? You're definitely looking at brand advocacy scores. So for example, you may have a net promoter program in place. So you're looking at who's recommending and who's not. And again, this is where predictive advocacy scores can be very important. So for example, the SDL brand commitment or customer relevance scores are particularly useful at that kind of final stage in the cycle. From an internal perspective, this is all about web engagement metrics. It's about average revenue per customer. It's about customer lifetime data. It's really about understanding how you're growing and building the value as you move along. But fundamentally, all of these data sources are coming together to really help you to do one thing, and that's to take control of the way that your revenue is growing and to really focus on driving ongoing profitability. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to get more depth around the issues we've talked about today, then please do look at our video, Implementing Data-Driven Strategies. And alternatively, if you're interested in a wider kind of understanding of how data impacts customer experience management, then visit our website, sdl.com/cxplaybooks.